I think I remember saying in January that things were coming together and I was starting to feel a lot better and ready to kick some butt. Well, February has been a better month in many ways. I've definitely seen some improvement with my business and personal growth and some other things, which is always cool to see. But in terms of energy levels, I was still dragging a lot, just feeling like a zombie some days and waking up and not feeling that great and not motivated to do anything, which is like super unusual for me. And so I would just get up some days and not do anything, like quite literally. And on other days, I would try to do something, but I felt like I only had enough energy to do what I needed to do, right? Just meet my obligations, meet my commitments, and that sort of thing. So started to wonder what was happening, if I was feeling sick or whatever. And I got to talking with Anna recently. You might remember her from the podcast. And she says, well, it looks like you have a vitamin A deficiency. And this time of year, of course, vitamin D is important as well. And I said, well, I have been taking supplements and seems, I'm not going to say impossible, but not very likely that that's the reason here. And she says, well, hold on. Why don't you try drinking an ounce of apple cider vinegar? That sounded kind of strange to me, but I said, okay, I'll give that a shot. And she said, yeah, let me know what happens when you do that. So I tried it and then instantly noticed an improvement, like almost instantly noticed an improvement in energy levels. And I'm going, what in the world? So of course I let her know what was going on, and she says I'm lacking in HCl or HLC, I think hyperchloric acid. Anyway, stomach acids, which I had been diluting by drinking too much water during meals. She says that's one thing that can kind of affect your digestion. So my body was not properly digesting the supplements that I was taking. So even if I did have sufficient levels of vitamin A and vitamin D, I would not be feeling it because my body was not digesting it properly. So we're working to fix that situation, and but I'm already feeling better. So I think I can only expect an increase in energy levels, definitely back to where I was and possibly better, I think, once we get kind of that digestive part of things corrected. And so my body is properly processing the supplements and vitamins. And so the last 2 days I have been feeling pretty awesome, which is good. And it's definitely an improvement over the last 2 months. As we speak now, of course, it's February 28th, and so there's only one day left in February, and didn't want to leave, this review till tomorrow. Just thought I would get it done and over with today. And I think that's more or less what I wanted to cover, was just kind of the struggle with energy levels that I'd had. Actually, I'm still working on the website situation as well, and you've probably heard me or read something. I talked about this a fair bit about not being able to access my website from the back end, from the administrative panel. And that was an issue I've been having with daw-music.com. But another website that I have, arcticsunburn.com, which is where I review video games and movies. That site I've also been blocked out of and unable to log into, and so kind of was asking around the forums and tried to get that issue resolved in January. That just wasn't happening. I kept posting more follow-up questions, going, hey, what else can I do? How can I resolve this situation? And eventually maybe they gave up, or I wasn't posting often enough for them to keep their attention on it. And so I couldn't get any results from the forum, really. And so finally today I actually called our hosting company to see what they could do. And it was put on hold for 10, 20 minutes. And they could not come up with any solutions either. He said, well, we tried Googling some things, and I got my colleague to come over and take a look, and we just can't figure it out. And I said, Movable Type just doesn't have a lot of documentation, a lot of supporting documentation that it should have. And increasingly, I've I like the platform, but I've experienced some frustration as far as getting plugins to work, and like I said, the lack of support documentation, which you need to continue to run it. And if you run into any problems like this, how do you solve them? And, I kind of have a vague idea of what happened. Somebody posted a comment or something and it doesn't have a created date, something to do with the MySQL tables. But for the life of me, I looked through everything and I couldn't find any issues with the created on table dates. So I couldn't resolve the problem. At least with the effort that I've put forth so far, I couldn't come up with a solution. So, yeah, definitely starting to think about moving over to WordPress. What that's going to mean probably is a fair bit of development time as far as the websites are concerned, right? Because that means some restructuring and reworking of the websites. And, would also have to work on the website structures as well, because the links would start leading to different places and not the same places. So, the whole question comes up, do I just start from scratch and maybe move over some of the content? Do I try to create an exact replication or duplication of what we already had? Or do I just completely start fresh and start over and kind of add little things as we go? So that's another thing that's kind of been in the pipeline and having to think about as far as getting the website up and working and doing what it needs to again. Granted, there was probably hundreds of pages of content that maybe necessarily didn't need to be there and wasn't accessed a whole lot. The podcast, on the other hand, I am a little bit sore that I can't access that, because that means that I can't upload audio like this one in a big hurry. It does mean that there'll be a lot once we get up and running again, which is exciting. But it would be good to be able to get at it and start uploading the podcast again. So that's where things are at for February 2012.